A flight attendant confronts a black female soldier. In that moment, she picks up the phone, and with a single call, the plane is brought to a standstill. She stepped aboard with a quiet intensity, her sharp military uniform accentuating her presence as she held tightly to her first-class ticket. With a heart full of quiet resolve, a steadfast soldier makes their way home, leaving behind the chaos and embracing the calm. Just moments after she found her place, a flight attendant came over, examined her closely, and spoke the unexpected words that sent a wave of astonishment through the entire cabin. "This place isn't meant for you." She felt an overwhelming urge to move to the back of the plane, a wave of humiliation washing over her as she faced the eyes of strangers. She stood alone with no one to stand by her side. There was an unspoken understanding, a heavy silence that enveloped the moment. In silence, she reached for her phone, her heart heavy, and sent a brief message that spoke volumes. That message transformed her entire experience. It changed everything profoundly. Before the flight had even touched down, the pilot received a call that set the airline into a whirlwind of urgent response and concern. The woman who rendered her judgment remained blissfully unaware of the depth and complexity of the person she had just dismissed. What happens next will make you reflect on the countless souls who have been silently overlooked, often without a single person noticing. Stay with us as this story unfolds in ways you never imagined. Before we embark on this journey together, I would love to know where your heart is connecting from today. If you find value in stories like this, please consider subscribing and turning on the bell icon to stay connected. This next one is something you truly won't want to miss. As the plane doors began to close, Danica stepped inside, her military boots echoing softly against the cabin floor, a moment filled with anticipation and resolve. Her uniform was sharp, and her posture radiated a serene strength that only years of dedication could cultivate. She simply existed in her own truth, untouched by the need for validation. All she longed for was to find her seat and finally feel at ease. After a long deployment overseas, she was finally on her first flight home, filled with anticipation and joy. Her father had surprised her with a first-class ticket, a heartfelt welcome home gift that made the moment even more special. He offered it to her with a quiet intensity, a gentle nod accompanying his heartfelt words, "You deserve this." It was enough. She yearned for peace over recognition. Danica moved through the cabin with a sense of purpose, her heart racing as she scanned the seat numbers, finally finding 3A, a comforting spot by the window. She nestled into her seat, gently folding her uniform jacket with care and tucking her backpack away beneath the seat in front of her. A handful of passengers cast fleeting glances in her direction, some extending warm smiles while others seemed to overlook her entirely. She stayed calm, leaning back and shutting her eyes for a fleeting moment, letting the weight of the past year fade away, welcoming the peace that enveloped her. The moment felt fleeting as a flight attendant gracefully moved down the aisle. Her name tag revealed her as Karen Mitchell, a tall woman with striking features, her hair elegantly pinned in a bun, clutching a clipboard as if it held the weight of her world. As she drew near, a smile graced her lips, yet it felt tinged with an underlying tension. Her gaze wandered from Danica's face to the seat number, then lingered on the uniform, each detail pulling at her heartstrings. "Excuse me," Karen Mitchell said, her voice softening as she paused beside her. "Could I kindly take a look at your boarding pass, please?" Dina's eyes fluttered open in a moment of astonishment, yet she nodded gently, her hand moving to her pocket with a sense of purpose. With a silent gesture, she offered the pass, her eyes reflecting a depth of unspoken emotions as Karen Mitchell caught sight of it. She looked down at Danica, her lips quivering with unspoken feelings. "This is a seat of unparalleled comfort and luxury." "Yes," Danica responded with a serene assurance. "That's what my ticket reveals." Miss Burke's smile slowly disappeared. "Are you on a journey by yourself?" Danica gave a small, heartfelt nod. The attendant lingered over the ticket, a flicker of hope in their eyes, before finally handing it back and softly saying, "I believe there's been a mix-up. This area is dedicated to our valued premium customers." Danica looked at her, a swirl of emotions reflected in her eyes. This is the seat that has been given to me. This is the one that feels right. Karen Mitchell stood her ground. Instead, she leaned in slightly, her voice dropping to a softer yet commanding tone. Please, I need you to step to the back. This ticket might have come to you by chance, or maybe it was a thoughtful gift from someone special. Despite everything, it's essential for me to find a solution so we can move forward with takeoff. Danica's eyes fluttered open, a moment of hesitation lingering in the air. It was a precious gift from my father. He made the decision to buy it. I'm certain he had good intentions, Karen Mitchell replied, her voice tinged with a mix of understanding and concern. I see where you're coming from, but this isn't how we usually do things. Please, I really need you to be by my side. She extended her hand, laying it softly yet resolutely on. Danica sensed a soft push against her arm, urging her to rise. The touch was gentle, but it was enough to make her pause in that fleeting moment. A handful of gazes shifted towards her, curiosity flickering in their eyes. Whispers floated through the air as one person stole a glance at their phone, yet an overwhelming silence enveloped the moment. With a heavy heart, Danica slowly rose to her feet. She held back her words, choosing silence over confrontation. With a heavy heart, she gathered her things, lifted her chin, and slowly walked to the back of the plane. Not a single person dared to meet her eyes, and silence enveloped the room like a heavy shroud. She found an empty seat in economy and nestled in, embracing the moment of solitude. The seat embraced her, the space wrapping around her like a gentle cocoon, and she welcomed it with open arms. The hurt ran deeper than the mere loss of status. It unfolded in such a way that she felt like a stranger, as if she had made a mistake somehow. Her hands shook gently as she delved into her backpack, pulled out her phone, and began to read her messages. With trembling hands, she poured her heart into a brief note to her father. She pushed me into economy, telling me I didn't fit in. I remained silent, yet her hand brushed against my arm. I'm managing, but my heart feels heavy. After hitting send, she placed the phone face down on her lap, her eyes fixed ahead, lost in thought. Even with the surface tranquility of the plane, Danica felt an unsettling truth within her. This was just the beginning of something much more profound. Danica sat quietly in the cramped economy seat, her posture rigid and her hands gently placed on her lap, lost in her thoughts. She stared at the seat back in front of her, her thoughts swirling in a whirlwind of emotions. Years in the military had instilled in her a sense of calm during the most challenging moments, yet nothing could have shielded her from the sharp pain of the insult she had just endured. It was so much more than just a change of place. It was the moment when harsh judgment fell upon her, and it felt like the whole world was watching. Her phone vibrated, and she looked down to see a reply from her father, brief and cutting, a stark contrast to his usual warmth. What is happening? Everything began to reveal itself from the very beginning. Danica's fingers danced across the keyboard, her jaw clenched in a mix of determination and intensity as she poured her thoughts into words. As she caught sight of my uniform, a sense of urgency filled the air as she asked for my ticket. I shared my thoughts, but she firmly insisted I leave, stating that the seat was meant for premium customers. She gently nudged my arm, a soft yet poignant gesture that underscored her feelings. In that moment of silence, she felt the weight of her earlier words settle in, their true meaning washing over her like a tide of realization. Then a new message came through, stirring something within. Could you please share your flight number with me? She pored over the words, letting them sink in deeply, reading them twice. Danica felt a familiar resonance in that tone. Her father was searching for something deeper. He was a man who deeply grasped the complexities of systems, not just within the military, but in the wider world around him. When he asked for details like that, it felt like a moment charged with anticipation, as if something significant was on the verge of happening. She sent the number, then placed her phone down, her eyes drifting to the world outside the window. Somewhere at the front of the plane, Karen Mitchell was once again moving through the first-class cabin, pouring drinks and offering warm smiles to passengers, masking the weight of what had just happened. The sight of her self-satisfied expression stirred a deep well of frustration within Danica's heart. Near the galley, another flight attendant, a younger woman named Emily Carter, approached her with a gentle hesitance. Is there truly something amiss with her ticket?" she asked softly, her eyes drifting to the back of the plane. Karen Mitchell kept her gaze fixed downward. She felt a deep sense of disconnection as she rearranged the tray, as if she were an outsider in that moment. That often serves as a signal of something deeper. It might have been an individual taking advantage of another's ticket. I felt it was too much to gamble with. Emily Carter seemed to carry a weight of discomfort, but she conveyed the situation to you with striking honesty. "Believe me, I've seen so many passengers trying to take advantage of the system. First class may not be suited for everyone." Emily Carter stifled her words and turned away, a heavy weight in her heart, not wishing to ignite a clash, yet the entire atmosphere felt deeply unsettling. In that moment, Danica's phone vibrated once more, stirring a mix of anticipation and unease within her. "Let go of your worries and embrace a sense of tranquility. I will handle it with all my heart." Danica leaned her head against the window, seeking comfort, yet an uneasy sensation whispered that the flight was on the brink of an unforeseen twist. In the cockpit, the captain poured his heart into his duties, unwavering and resolute. As the in-flight phone buzzed beside him, a wave of anticipation washed over him, and he instinctively reached over to answer it. Captain James Sullivan felt the weight of a clear, commanding voice resonating from the other end. "This is Commander Marcus Hayes, reaching out with a heartfelt message. I'm reaching out about someone on Flight 227. My daughter, Sergeant Amara Johnson, was just taken from her first-class seat by a flight attendant." The captain sat up straighter in his chair, a wave of determination washing over him. "Absolutely, I didn't realize any—" She experienced a profound sense of humiliation in front of fellow passengers, faced unwanted physical contact, and was unjustly belittled. The voice lingered on, resonating deeply. "I've reached out to the Department of Aviation Security and shared my thoughts with them. A call will be coming your way shortly. In this moment, it might be helpful to share your feelings and thoughts with your lead flight attendant to gain a better understanding of what happened." The line went silent before the captain could respond, leaving him momentarily paralyzed, gazing at the controls as the weight of the conversation pressed down on him. With a trembling hand, he reached for the cabin intercom and pressed the button, his heart racing in anticipation. "Karen Mitchell, we kindly ask you to come to the cockpit right away." In the first-class cabin, Karen Mitchell paused, uncertainty flickering in her eyes. A trace of frustration washed over her as she pivoted and made her way to the front of the plane. Danica pressed forward, her heart racing as the announcement echoed in her ears, sending a wave of unease through her. What was happening had its roots deep within the cockpit, a place where emotions intertwined with the unfolding events. Karen Mitchell stepped in, her warm smile radiating a sense of care and connection. "Did you summon me, Captain?" He let the smile fade away, leaving a silence that spoke volumes. "Do you remember the passenger in 3A? A woman in uniform?" Karen Mitchell took a brief moment to reflect. Indeed, there was an unfortunate confusion regarding her seat assignment. I pleaded with her to take that step forward. "Have you checked her ticket?" I stole a fleeting look at it. "Absolutely. It perfectly aligned with the seat." Karen Mitchell moved ever so slightly, a subtle shift that spoke volumes. "It happened, but she wasn't part of my list. I believed it was a mistake." The captain nodded with a heavy heart. "Did you really jump to conclusions without checking first?" "She was dressed in uniform," Ms. Burke added, her tone filled with a sense of vulnerability. "Sometimes travelers seek that out in hopes of receiving a compassionate upgrade. I was simply checking in." The captain's jaw clenched with unspoken tension. "The passenger," he revealed, "is none other than Sergeant Amara Johnson, the beloved daughter of Commander Marcus Hayes. He is presently guiding defense operations on a national scale, and he has already communicated with the Department of Aviation Security has elevated this flight to a federal matter." The captain turned to Karen Mitchell, his voice filled with urgency, saying, "I need you to return to her immediately." He went on, "You will express your remorse in front of the cabin and guide her back to her seat." She tried to find her voice,
but silence enveloped her. The captain expressed, "This flight might not arrive at its intended destination as planned. If that soldier's rights were disregarded, we will be arriving sooner than expected." Karen Mitchell then turned and walked away, her heart heavy with unspoken words. In the cockpit, her hands shook with a mix of fear and anticipation as she confronted a feeling she had never experienced before. For the first time in her extensive career, she experienced a deep sense of vulnerability and uncertainty about what awaited her beyond the cockpit door. Karen Mitchell stepped out of the cockpit, her heartbeat resonating in her ears, a symphony of adrenaline and emotion. The atmosphere in the cabin was thick with unspoken feelings, as passengers lost themselves in movies, turned the pages of magazines, and savored their champagne. Every step she took seemed to shine with an intensity that drew all eyes to her. Her once radiant smile had faded, and her steps felt uncertain, lacking the strength they once held. The aisle appeared to extend infinitely in front of her. She hesitated at the threshold of the economy section, her eyes searching for Danica with a mix of hope and longing. When she finally caught sight of her, sitting still with her hands gently resting in her lap and her gaze lost in the world outside the window, time seemed to stand still for a moment. The woman she had dismissed just an hour ago had now become the very reason her name was likely echoing through the halls of Federal Aviation Headquarters. The other flight attendants watched quietly from their positions, with Emily Carter close to the galley, sharing a meaningful glance with another crew member. Silence enveloped the room. There was a profound absence of support. Miss Burke adjusted her uniform, her heart racing as she took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment envelop her. With a deep breath filling her lungs, she made her way toward Danica's row. "Sergeant Thompson?" she began, her voice softening as she crouched slightly to meet her gaze. Her voice softened, each word weighed with intention. "It seems there has been a miscommunication. It would be my honor to accompany you back to your seat in first class." Danica turned her head slowly, her expression a complex tapestry of feelings. Could it be a miscommunication? Indeed, Karen Mitchell responded with remarkable swiftness. "We noticed that your name wasn't appearing as it should on our cabin manifest. I thought there might have been a mistake, but everything has been sorted out now." Danica looked at her for a moment, her gaze filled with unspoken feelings. After a fleeting moment, she looked down at her phone, her fingers moving with a calm determination as she typed a message. "She's here, reaching out to me, asking for a return, insisting it was all just a misunderstanding." Her father's response came swiftly, stirring within her a surge of emotions that compelled her to share her true feelings. Only the raw truth, stripped of all pretenses and justifications. Danica gazed up at Miss Burke once more, her heart swelling with unspoken feelings. "You urged me to take a step forward. Your words made me feel like an outsider, and your touch lingered in a way that stirred something deep within me." Miss Burke felt a surge of tension at the accusation. "It was a tender gesture," she replied. "You reached into my heart," Danica said softly, "and now you wish to act as if it never occurred." Passengers around were now attuned to the unfolding moment. Some screens stood still, drinks hung low, and the air thickened with tension and unease. Karen Mitchell sensed a parched feeling in her throat. She came to understand that she had misunderstood the situation and perhaps crossed a line she shouldn't have. Text. "I'm truly sorry for the trouble this has caused," she expressed with heartfelt sincerity. Danica lifted an eyebrow, a look of deep curiosity crossing her face. "It feels like I was singled out, as if my presence was questioned while others were overlooked." The question hung in the atmosphere, weighted with unspoken feelings. Karen Mitchell paused, her gaze drifting towards the watching passengers, her face losing color. "I made a mistake," she confessed, her voice barely above a whisper. "I thought I knew, but I was mistaken." Danica rose slowly, her voice filled with a quiet strength. Her voice was gentle, but every word echoed with profound clarity. With a deep breath, Karen Mitchell found her strength and lifted her chin, directing her eyes toward the fellow travelers around her. It was a heartfelt mistake to have removed Sergeant Thompson from her seat. She clutched a ticket that was undeniably valid.
I deeply regret my misunderstanding of her, and I truly apologize from the bottom of my heart. The silence that followed was deeper than any words could convey. Danica failed to show appreciation. With a heavy heart, she gathered her backpack, gave a subtle nod, and slowly walked back to first class. An apology wasn't needed. The damage was already irreversible. Danica moved to the front with a serene determination. She walked steadily, her expression calm, but deep down she felt a shift in the atmosphere of the cabin. Passengers in first class, who had once ignored her presence, now turned their attention as she gracefully passed by. Some seemed burdened by their conscience, while others hurriedly turned away, unable to meet the eyes of those around them. Silence enveloped the room, heavy and profound. She made her way back to her familiar seat, 3A, and nestled in, gently placing her backpack beneath the seat, just as she had done in moments past. She held back her gaze from Karen Mitchell, who lingered a few steps behind. The flight attendant hesitated beside her for a moment, grappling with the weight of unspoken words. After a moment of silence, she finally spoke, her voice filled with warmth. "If there's anything I can do for you, please don't hesitate to let me know." Danica sat quietly, her fingers gently tracing the cover of the small book in her lap before she turned to a random page, lost in thought. Her silence conveyed so much more than words ever could. Miss Burke turned with a tense grace and made her way back down the aisle, her face burning with emotion and her hands trembling with unease. She turned her gaze away from the other passengers in the galley, as if shielding herself from their presence. Emily Carter stood there, her heart racing, as she watched Karen Mitchell draw closer, her eyebrows arching in anticipation. "Well?" Emily Carter inquired gently. "I'm sorry," Karen Mitchell whispered, her voice heavy with regret. "It seems as though you were on your way to face a judge," Emily Carter observed. In a moment charged with unspoken feelings, Karen Mitchell cast a piercing glare at her. "It's not the right moment," she expressed. "I'm simply expressing my thoughts," Emily Carter responded. It seemed like things didn't turn out as hoped. Karen Mitchell turned away, immersing herself in the task of arranging a tray, her hands quivering ever so slightly. The weight of her actions was starting to settle in her heart. It wasn't merely the action she had taken, but the profound impact on the person affected and the significance of her father's identity. Throughout her years, she had encountered numerous challenging passengers, yet none had ever left her feeling this exposed. Meanwhile, in first class, Danica turned the pages of her book, yet her gaze lingered, lost in thoughts that danced just beyond the words. She felt the weight of silence, the thick atmosphere charged with unspoken words, and the uneasy looks that flickered between those present. The man seated across the aisle, an older gentleman in a well-fitted navy suit, leaned in slightly, his presence evoking a sense of warmth and connection. "I, witnessed what transpired earlier," he whispered softly. "That was truly disheartening." Danica looked up, her face revealing nothing of her inner thoughts. "It's truly unfortunate," he said again, his voice thick with emotion as he cleared his throat. "Indeed, it was unmistakably an error." "I truly believe she had no ill intentions behind her words." Danica gently tilted her head, a subtle gesture filled with unspoken feelings. "Were you able to express anything when it occurred?" He paused, uncertainty flickering in his eyes. "No, I didn't feel it was my role, truly." She slowly turned her gaze back, a wave of feelings washing over her. In her book, the man reclined in his seat, a wave of fascination washing over him as he gazed at the untouched drink resting on his tray. Danica's phone vibrated softly, breaking the stillness around her. "Father, everything is well. I have received the information. Please remain in your seat." The presence of security lingers at the gate, a reminder of vigilance and protection. Her lips curved gently, revealing a subtle, understanding smile. Her silence lingered in the air. It wasn't necessary. In that moment, she inhaled deeply, allowing herself to embrace the weight of the world, and gently turned another page. The plane whispered gently as it floated through the vast expanse of the sky. Yet, within the cabin, the ambiance had shifted profoundly. It transformed into something far more profound than a mere routine flight. It had transformed into a silent tempest, and an unspoken awareness enveloped everyone. The passengers, who once shared animated discussions, now found themselves enveloped in a heavy silence, their gazes shifting anxiously between Danica and the flight attendants. Even those who hadn't witnessed the incident could feel the heavy weight of unease that enveloped the cabin. A shift had taken place that changed the very essence of the surroundings. Danica sat with her book resting on her lap, her mind drifting far away from the words on the page. Her thoughts drifted away from the words on the page, lost in the memory of Karen Mitchell's face as she stood there, filled with the weight of her apology. She remembered the painful silence that surrounded her, the absence of support when she was told to leave. She thought deeply about her father, a man who always maintained his calm and never let fear take hold. He moved with a quiet strength, unwavering and fierce in his resolve. The curtain that divided first class from economy gently swayed as Karen Mitchell stepped in again, tray in hand, her heart racing with anticipation. She moved slowly, her steps now heavy with uncertainty. The once bright smile that illuminated her face had vanished, leaving behind a fragile, pale line where joy used to reside. Her eyes flickered nervously among the passengers, intentionally steering clear of Danica's seat before she made her way to a woman in 2C to ask if she would like a drink. The passenger nodded with a hint of tension, her gaze flickering momentarily to Danica before settling back on her tray. It was a delicate gesture, yet Danica felt its significance deeply. All had seen enough to understand what had happened, even if they pretended not to know. Burke moved through the aisle, her voice quivering as she took orders, each word laced with a fragile courtesy that hinted at her inner turmoil. She lingered near Emily Carter, who was carefully arranging items in the galley, and leaned in just a bit closer. "I extended a drink to her," Karen Mitchell whispered softly. Emily Carter kept her gaze fixed downward. "Did she really take it?" She just responded with a simple no. Without uttering a single word, Emily Carter replied with a calm strength that spoke volumes. Her silence resonates deeply. Karen Mitchell's jaw clenched with intensity. "Do you truly feel they will step up and make a difference?" I expressed my sincerest apologies, emphasizing that it was a mistake. At last, Emily Carter lifted her eyes, her voice steady and resolute. "You overlooked the verification of her ticket." Your touch spoke volumes, casting a shadow of judgment before she could even find her voice. "I never meant to hurt anyone." "But you did," Emily Carter insisted. "That is what holds the deepest significance." Karen Mitchell turned away, overwhelmed and speechless as she poured another drink, her fingers trembling with uncertainty. She set the glass down on the tray, a deep unease settling in her chest, as if unseen eyes were watching her from every angle, even though no one was truly there. Every quiet conversation and fleeting glance felt like an intense examination, and for the first time in her career, she experienced the weight of being observed rather than upholding the standards. Settling back into her seat, Danica felt her phone vibrate again, a reminder of the world outside her thoughts. "Dad, when you land, you'll feel a presence entering the cabin that will touch your heart. Remain where you are and allow them to approach you." Danica responded softly, just saying, "Okay." She gently closed the book that had been resting on her lap, placing it softly on the tray table. Her gaze wandered, lost in thought, as she looked out the window at the clouds floating by, each one a whisper of her emotions. She pondered the trials she had encountered throughout her journey. She had bravely faced the chaos of combat zones, endured the fiercest storms, and led her team through the depths of turmoil. Yet this serene journey, this brief instance of vulnerability, touched her more deeply than she had expected. It wasn't just the seat or the shove. It was the heavy silence that surrounded her, the way everyone turned away, unable to meet her eyes. That silence spoke volumes, resonating deep within her soul, yet now it was starting to crack.
and Danica felt an immense force stirring inside her, something profound, and this time as the flight began its gentle descent, the captain's soothing and reassuring voice filled the cabin, creating a sense of comfort and connection among the passengers. Dear friends, we are now embarking on our first steps toward our destination. We kindly ask you to return to your seats and make sure that all tray tables are in the upright position. Your comfort and safety are our top priorities. The comforting chaos unfolded as passengers secured their seatbelts, tucked away blankets, and savored the last sips of their drinks. Yet beneath this ordinary routine, a delicate sense of longing lingered in the air, flowing through the cabin like an unspoken wave. Though many remained oblivious to the full story, they could feel its weight, intuitively knowing that the end of this journey would defy all expectations. Danica sat quietly, her seatbelt holding her in place, a sense of anticipation enveloping her. She sensed the tightness gripping her neck and shoulders, but still, she remained still. She lingered in silence, her phone gently cradled in her hand, her eyes locked on the distance. A profound sense of peace enveloped her, arising not just from her father's words, but from the deep realization that people like Karen Mitchell seldom evade the repercussions of their misguided choices. With a quiet grace, Emily Carter glided down the aisle, her presence almost ethereal. As she gathered the cups and glanced at the overhead bins, she reached Dina's row and took a moment to linger. She looked at her for a moment, not with pity, but with a deep sense of admiration. "If there's anything I can do for you before we land," she said gently, "please don't hesitate to tell me." Dina acknowledged with a subtle nod, her emotions swirling just beneath the surface. "I'm truly grateful." Emily Carter gave a subtle smile, a fleeting moment of warmth, before she continued on her way. A few rows back, Karen Mitchell stood with a tense posture in the galley, watching every action Emily Carter took with intense focus. She had long stopped offering drinks, hesitant to traverse the aisle, fully aware that every step she took would be met with watchful eyes. As she came to understand who was in seat 3A, the weight of her mistake shifted from being a solitary battle to a collective experience. Every moment since that push had been intensely examined, and now it felt as if the spotlight was closing in on her. Her uniform felt like a heavy weight, the collar digging into her neck, her mouth dry and uncomfortable, and even the simplest task, like folding napkins, loomed large and overwhelming. Emily Carter stepped back into the galley, her movements gentle as she tenderly arranged the space around her. She spoke softly, her eyes fixed elsewhere. "They'll be meeting her at the gate." Karen Mitchell felt a wave of tension wash over her. "What do you truly mean? There is a sense of security." In a moment, filled with anticipation, Emily Carter replied, "The captain has just given us the confirmation we were waiting for. She holds a special place in my heart. Her father holds a web of connections that stretches far and wide. She's more than just a soldier." "No," Emily Carter interrupted with a piercing tone. "She's a soldier, unceremoniously displaced from her seat by someone who didn't even bother to acknowledge her ticket." Karen Mitchell averted her gaze, her hands trembling as they pressed against the counter. She had reassured herself that it was just a small error, a mere adjustment of her seat, but that comforting illusion shattered as she realized she hadn't checked anything at all. She had not paused to ask, to reach out, to connect. She had fixated solely on the uniform, the skin, the composed demeanor, and reached the painful conclusion that she didn't belong. And now she was on the brink of facing the repercussions of that choice. The plane leaned softly, drawing closer to the runway that stretched out like a comforting embrace beneath the warm afternoon sky. Danica watched it with deep focus, her eyes filled with an unyielding intensity. Uncertain of what the next hour would bring, she embraced the moment with a calm heart. Instead, she felt a deep sense of readiness. As she bent down to secure her seatbelt, she took a deep breath, savoring the moment one final time. In that tranquil moment, as the city lay beneath and the plane glided down, a profound realization took shape. For Karen Mitchell, the landing was destined to be a far more tumultuous experience than the takeoff. The wheels touched down on the runway with a soft thud, soon joined by the comforting roar of reverse thrusters, guiding the plane to a gradual halt. A few passengers offered a faint applause, a gesture that felt more like an obligation than a genuine expression, wavering and uncertain. The atmosphere was thick with an undeniable sense of unease. Everyone felt a sense of uncertainty, as if the future held secrets that were beyond their grasp. The familiar sense of relief that typically filled the air was nowhere to be found, leaving behind an unsettling silence that wrapped around the cabin. A heavy stillness enveloped the room as individuals felt the weight of uncertainty, each heart yearning for understanding in the midst of confusion. In what way it might be responded to. Danica sat in stillness, her hands gently cradled in her lap, a world of thoughts swirling within her. Her phone vibrated softly, a gentle reminder of the world outside. "Papa, ellos están en la puerta. Hold on for them." She decided to remain silent, tucking the phone into her jacket pocket and staring blankly ahead. Her jaw was relaxed, her breathing steady, yet her eyes sparkled with intensity, filled with clarity and purpose. The anger that had once consumed her began to dissipate. What lingered was a profound and enduring essence. It was the profound moment of understanding that emerged when the truth finally confronted someone who had long thought they could escape the repercussions of their actions. The plane glided gently toward the gate, each moment filled with anticipation. In that moment, attention started to shift, not facing the windows, but looking toward the front of the plane, in the direction of Danica, moving gently toward the curtain. Karen Mitchell stood motionless in the galley, her posture rigid, yet her complexion drained of color. Every part of her being was tightly wound. She felt the weight of inevitability pressing down on her. She had received the message passed on from the captain through Emily Carter, noticed the sidelong looks from passengers, and sensed the heavy burden of judgment with each step she took after her apology. Emily Carter cast a fleeting look at her from across the galley, a moment heavy with unspoken feelings. As Karen Mitchell posed the question, a sense of anticipation hung in the air, for deep down she was aware of the response that awaited her. In response, Emily Carter remained silent, her heart heavy with unspoken thoughts. She quietly turned away, her focus shifting to the delicate arrangement of the serving trays, as if lost in her own world. Her silence conveyed so much more than words ever could. As the seatbelt sign flickered off, the intercom crackled to life again, filling the cabin with a sense of anticipation. "Dear friends, we are so grateful to have you here as we embark on this journey together. We kindly ask that you stay in your seats until we have fully arrived at the gate. Your safety and comfort are our top priorities. We are truly grateful for your choice to fly with us." Danica sat in silence, her body frozen in place as if the weight of the moment held her captive, her bag untouched and her posture unwavering. She simply lingered, her heart heavy with anticipation. Then the cabin door opened with a sharp hiss, followed by a flurry of voices, footsteps echoing in the air, and then an enveloping silence that hung heavily around. Shortly after, a figure in a dark uniform stepped onto the plane, towering and robust, radiating a sense of tranquility. His badge rested against his chest, a silent testament to his role, while his expression remained a mystery, concealing the depths of his thoughts and feelings. He overlooked the passengers and the other attendants, focusing his attention entirely on Karen Mitchell. "Ma'am," he said with a sense of urgency, "you must come with us." Karen Mitchell's lips quivered ever so slightly, yet silence enveloped her. The man moved forward, his heart pounding with anticipation. "A formal complaint has been filed, and there has been a federal notification regarding misconduct that occurred during the flight. You will be taken for questioning right away." A soft breath escaped, echoing through the cabin. In the early moments, one passenger lifted their phone, pretending to check a message, yet it was evident they were capturing the moment. Karen Mitchell struggled to regain her composure. "I didn't mean—" she began, her voice trembling, but the officer gently interrupted her. "This is a moment for reflection, but the space for your explanation will come later." She looked around, her heart sinking, yearning for someone to step in, to speak up, or to lend a helping hand, but the silence was deafening. With unwavering resolve, she adjusted her uniform, raised her chin high, and stepped confidently into the aisle. With every step toward the front of the cabin, a heavy weight seemed to settle deeper within me. Passengers sat in quiet contemplation, a few leaning gently to the side, yearning for a clearer glimpse of the unfolding scene. As she moved by Danica's seat, her eyes fell down, almost as if drawn by an unseen force. Danica met her gaze, steady and unwavering, radiating a sense of inner strength. That silent gaze carried a depth of feeling that no words from Karen Mitchell could ever convey. In that fleeting moment, she averted her gaze and moved on, vanishing through the cabin door. The atmosphere in the plane grew heavy, and it was only when the door shut behind her that a collective breath was released. In her seat, Danica leaned back gently, savoring the moment. She remained silent, but an unspoken understanding lingered in the air, and the real impact was just starting to reveal itself. As the cabin door gently shut behind Miss Burke, a delicate ripple of energy swept through the plane. Passengers started to unbuckle their seatbelts, rising slowly to retrieve their bags from the overhead bins, but their movements felt stiff, lacking the fluidity of genuine ease. It was so much more than just the end of a journey. The air was thick with an unshakable feeling, a haunting awareness that something had gone terribly wrong. Danica remained in her seat, enveloped in a sense of stillness, as if the world outside held no pull for her to leave. In truth, she had received warnings about it. Her father's instructions were clear and heartfelt. Stay where you are, hold your position. With a calm heart, she embraced the next step as it came, untouched by the chaos around her. The man in 3C, who had pretended to be absorbed in his book during the latter part of the flight, finally shattered the stillness that hung in the air. "I had no idea," he whispered softly, "that you held such significance." Danica turned her head slightly, her expression a quiet mask of emotions untold. "I am not. I just experienced a moment of validation." He looked down, a wave of embarrassment washing over him. "That wasn't my intention at all. But isn't that just the way it is?" she replied, her voice tinged with a deep sense of understanding. "Your value is shaped by the essence of your family, not by the way you are treated or belittled, but rather when it becomes a weight for another." The man stood in silence, his heart heavy with unspoken words. With a heavy heart, he picked up his suitcase and rose silently, the weight of unspoken thoughts lingering in the air. Around her, more passengers began to move, yet their demeanor felt different, as if an invisible weight had settled among them. The warmth of casual smiles and light conversation faded away, leaving behind a heavy, unsettling atmosphere. There was a deep sense of awareness in the air, a feeling that something was not quite right, yet many chose to remain silent. Emily Carter stepped into the first-class cabin, her eyes searching the rows until they finally locked onto Dina's. She moved forward with a delicate sense of trepidation. "The exit has been cleared. If you feel ready, you are warmly invited to D-plane now." Danica gave a gentle nod. "Are they still out there?" Emily Carter responded with a heartfelt nod. Indeed, there were 2 airport security officers along with a representative from the airline. "They are here to support you, to walk alongside you, and to provide the help you may need." Danica rose, her heart fluttering as she reached for her backpack tucked away beneath the seat. "I can manage on my own. Simply a path to freedom." Emily Carter took a moment, her voice softening as she spoke. "I truly regret what has happened. I wish I had found the courage to express myself earlier. Witnessing the way she treated you left me utterly speechless. I wish I hadn't." Danica looked at her with a gentle warmth in her eyes. "Now you understand the depth of that experience." Emily Carter nodded slowly, her cheeks burning with a deep sense of embarrassment. Danica faced the aisle, her shoulders firm, her steps unwavering. She moved with a calm grace, unhurried, as she passed the remaining first-class passengers who fidgeted in their seats, caught in a moment of uncertainty about how to respond. A heartfelt apology lingered in the atmosphere, but silence enveloped many instead. Some bowed their heads gently, while one woman reached into her purse for her phone, not to capture the moment, but to send a message, perhaps to keep someone who wasn't on the flight informed. As Danica stepped onto the jet bridge,
A wave of cool, crisp air enveloped her, stirring something deep within her soul.
Before them were two uniformed security officers, alongside a man dressed in a navy blue suit, his lapel gleaming with a silver airline pin. His posture stood tall, and though his expression was calm, it carried a deep sense of respect. Sergeant Thompson, he shared his name with a sense of purpose. Reaching out with warmth, "I'm David Larson from the airline's executive response team. We understand the gravity of the situation, and your father has expressed a deep desire for us to be fully open and responsible in our actions. I would be honored to accompany you to the executive lounge where he eagerly awaits your arrival." Danica chose not to take his hand, yet she nodded in understanding. "Guide us forward." As they made their way through the terminal, the employees couldn't help but take notice of them. Some rose with a quiet strength, while others gracefully moved aside, as if they felt the weight of the moment in their hearts. There was a heavy silence, as if curiosity had been swallowed whole. Silence enveloped the room. The presence of uniformed security and a senior executive alongside a calm soldier spoke volumes, revealing everything they needed to understand. They stepped through a pair of frosted glass doors, entering a quiet corridor where the noise of the terminal faded away, leaving a sense of peace in its wake. The atmosphere transformed into a tranquil and elegant embrace. The floors shimmered softly, the lighting embraced with warmth, and a delicate chill danced in the air. At the end of the corridor, a set of double doors loomed, marked with the words "Executive Lounge," a realm reserved for the chosen few. Kenneth paused, his heart racing, before gently pushing them open. "If you need any legal help, your father is here for you." He expressed his willingness to help, offering to provide a written statement if it was necessary. Dennis cast a fleeting look his way and inquired, "Does she still hold a position with your airline?" He paused, uncertainty flickering in his eyes before he found the words to reply, "Not right now. She has been put on immediate suspension while a thorough investigation takes place." Danica nodded, embracing this moment as a heartfelt beginning. Kenneth gently opened the door, his heart racing as he stepped aside to welcome her in. As she stepped into the lounge, the gentle hum of the coffee machine and the quiet whispers of intimate conversations seemed to dissolve, heralding the moment when the true dialogue would unfold. Within the executive lounge, the ambiance was strikingly serene, enveloping all in a profound sense of calm. Gentle lights glowed softly from the walls, while a warm, inviting scent of roasted coffee lingered in the air, wrapping around the senses like a comforting embrace. Plush leather chairs and secluded seating areas were thoughtfully scattered throughout the space, yet a profound sense of solitude enveloped the one individual who occupied a seat in the far corner. With his posture poised and one leg gracefully crossed over the other, his hands gently rested on a closed folder, embodying a sense of calm and contemplation. Danica's eyes locked onto him in that very moment. Her father, Marcus Hayes, spoke little, yet his presence carried a profound significance that resonated deeply within her. His presence drew everyone in, inspiring them to stand a little taller as he entered the room. It was a profound quality that spoke for itself, resonating deeply without the need for words. Years of dedication, numerous challenges faced, and choices made in the heat of the moment were reflected in his stance, his breath, and his focused listening. Upon seeing her, he rose, offered a single nod, and welcomed her with open arms for a fleeting yet heartfelt embrace. "Are you okay?" he gently asked, embracing her until she finally gave a soft, deliberate nod. "I'm okay," Danica replied, her voice calm, a sense of relief washing over her. He took a step back, his gaze lingering on her face, seeking reassurance that she was genuinely okay. He motioned towards the chair across from him, inviting a connection in the space between them. "Please, take a seat. I really want to share some thoughts with you."
Danica đặt ba ba lô xuống bên cạnh ghế và ngồi vào chỗ đã giải quyết mình. Tư thế của cô phản ánh sự thẳng thắn không lấy chuyện của anh.
Vào đúng vị trí của cô, tư thế của cô phản ánh sự thẳng thắn không lấy chuyện của anh. Sự im lặng bao quanh họ chứa đầy mục đích. Một mối liên hệ sâu sắc đã nói lên mối liên kết khối lượng nói lên nhiều điều mà không cần một lời nào. Không một lời nào. Không cần phải vội vã vượt qua cảm xúc. Vội vã vượt qua cảm xúc. Họ đã học cách tìm đường vượt qua sự hỗn loạn với mục đích rõ ràng. Tôi đã đọc những ngón tay nhẹ nhàng gõ vào tập tài liệu, giọng nói có chút trầm ngâm. Báo cáo, Victor nói, ngón tay anh nhẹ nhàng gõ vào tập tài liệu, giọng nói có chút trầm ngâm. Tôi dành chút thời gian để suy ngẫm về cảnh quay trong cabin. Một số hành khách đã ghi lại khoảnh khắc này. Câu chuyện đã được dệt theo cách của nó thông qua trong cộng đồng hàng không và sẽ chạm đến phương tiện truyền thông trong vòng 24 giờ tối. Cộng đồng hàng không và sẽ chạm vào phương tiện truyền thông trong vòng 24 giờ tối. Danica ngồi im lòng nặng trĩu khi Victor tiếp tục nói. Lòng nặng trĩu khi Victor tiếp tục nói. Các hãng hàng không đã ban hành một tuyên bố nội bộ, cố gắng làm dịu tác động của các hãng hàng không đã đưa ra tuyên bố nội bộ, cố gắng giảm nhẹ tác động của tình hình và xử lý vấn đề một cách thận trọng, cách cẩn thận. Khuôn mặt của Danica vẫn là một chiếc mặt nạ khó hiểu. Tất nhiên, nhưng chúng tôi sẽ không để điều này trôi qua mà không được chú ý, ông nói tiếp. Điều này không chỉ là vấn đề thái độ kém hoặc dịch vụ khách hàng không đầy đủ. Vấn đề về thái độ kém hoặc dịch vụ khách hàng không đầy đủ, nó phản ánh một cảm giác hiểu lầm sâu sắc, thiếu sự tôn trọng và đối xử bất công với người khác. Cảm giác hiểu lầm sâu sắc, thiếu sự tôn trọng và đối xử bất công với người khác. Họ tìm cách sửa chữa tình hình bằng một lời xin lỗi chân thành trước công chúng. Có thể là một phiếu giảm giá chu đáo, phiếu giảm giá và một thông cáo báo chí thể hiện cam kết đánh giá lại các thủ tục của họ. Một thông cáo báo chí bày tỏ cam kết đánh giá lại các thủ tục của họ. Với một động tác chuyển động nhẹ nhàng, anh mở tập hồ sơ và cẩn thận trượt nó về phía cô. Một lời mời im lặng chứa đầy sự không nói nên lời lội mời cảm xúc, chứa đầy những cảm xúc không nói nên lời. Trong các trang đất email in, sự cô tóm tắt và một bản sao thế lên máy bay gốc của cô, ghế 3A, được đánh dấu rõ ràng bằng tên, chức danh và ID của cô. Tất cả đều được hiển thị bằng màu đen và trắng. Và một bản sao thế lên máy bay gốc của cô ấy, ghế 3A được ghi rõ ràng tên, chức danh và CMND của cô ấy. Tất cả đều được ghi bằng màu đen và trắng. Cô ấy không kiểm tra bất cứ thứ gì, Danica thì thầm nhẹ nhàng. Cô ấy trái tim chỉ đơn giản là không muốn làm vậy. Đơn giản là không có trong đó. Victor trả lời. Một khoảnh khắc tĩnh lặng lơ lửng trong không khí. Cô ấy đã bị ông bày tỏ đã tạm dừng và chờ đợi cuộc điều tra tiếp theo. Nhưng điều đó vẫn không đủ. Danica nhẹ nhàng nghiêng đầu, một biểu hiện nhẹ nhàng biểu cảm đi qua lướt qua khuôn mặt cô. Khuôn mặt của cô ấy. Anh thực sự đang cân nhắc việc thả cô ấy đi sao? Để cô ấy đi. Victor nhẹ nhàng lắc đầu. Một cử chỉ tinh tế chứa đầy cư chỉ không nói ra chua đầy những cảm xúc không nói nên lời. Cảm xúc, đây không phải là không việc tìm kiếm sự trả thù. Về việc tìm kiếm sự trả thù, đây là việc nhận trách nhiệm thực sự. Việc để cô ấy đi trong im lặng không thực hiện được mục đích đó. Cô ấy có thể thấy mình đang tiến về phía trước, bắt đầu lại ở một hãng hàng không khác, có thể tham gia vào những mô hình tương tự với một ai đón hứng mô hình không có vôi một người không có cha và có mối quan hệ với mọi viên chức cấp cao trong Bộ Giao thông Vận tải. Một người cha có mối quan hệ mật thiết với mọi viên chức cấp cao trong Bộ Giao thông Vận tải. Ông ấy nghiêng người, chia sẻ mong muốn chân thành của mình về cải cách chính sách công, ủng hộ việc đào tạo chống định kiến bắt buộc cho tất cả phi hành đoàn và một hệ thống đánh giá cho phép hành khách báo cáo hành vi phân biệt đối xử một cách an toàn mà không sợ bị coi là khó khăn. Ông ấy kêu gọi hãng hàng không đó phải xin lỗi công khai, không chỉ với bạn mà còn với mọi quân nhân mặc đồng phục đã phải chịu đựng sự thiếu tôn trọng. Cải cách chính sách, ủng hộ việc đào tạo chống định kiến bắt buộc cho tất cả phi hành đoàn và hệ thống đánh giá cho phép hành khách báo cáo hành vi phân biệt đối xử một cách an toàn mà không sợ bị coi là khó khăn. Ông kêu gọi hãng hàng không đó xin lỗi công khai, không chỉ với bạn mà còn với mọi quân nhân mặc đồng phục đã phải chịu đựng sự thiếu tôn trọng. Trong sự Danica lặng lẽ nhìn anh với trái tim chật chứa những suy nghĩ không nói nên lời. Đây giống như một nơi mà tôi biết rất rõ. Tôi đã quá quen thuộc. Cha cô ấy luôn nói nhẹ nhàng, không bao giờ dùng đến sự tức giận hay đe dọa. Luôn nói nhẹ nhàng, không bao giờ tỏ ra tức giận hay đe dọa. Ông ấy đặt mức tầm nhìn vào mục tiêu theo đuổi chúng với quyết tâm không lấy chuyện, đạt được chúng hết lần này đến lần khác. Và theo đuổi chúng với quyết tâm không lấy chuyện, đạt được chúng hết lần này đến lần khác. Họ sẽ đấu tranh chống lại nó, cô nói với tâm trạng nặng nề. Họ sẽ vấp ngã, anh trả lời, tràn đầy cảm giác không thể tránh khỏi. Khoảnh khắc tĩnh lặng khác chốc lát lai kéo dài, cửa sự suy ngẫm yên tĩnh kéo dài. Danica cầm tấm lấy thế lên máy bay ra khỏi tập hồ sơ và nhìn chằm chằm vào nó. Lòng cô tràn ngập cảm giác vừa phấn khích vừa hoài niệm. Thế lên máy bay từ trong cấp lên và nhìn chằm chằm vào nó. Trái tim cô dâng trào cảm xúc vừa phấn khích vừa hoài niệm. Tất cả điều này xảy ra vì cô ấy nhìn về phía tôi và phía quyết định rằng tôi không thuộc về nơi này, cô nói. Cô ấy nói rằng tôi không thuộc về nơi này. Victor gật đầu chậm rãi. Và bây giờ cô ấy phải đối mặt với một cuộc sống với sự không chắc chắn của sự không chắc chắn về lựa chọn của mình. Sự lựa chọn của cô ấy. Danica đưa tay ra với một thông điệp chân thành, dành tặng cô ấy chân thành, lời xin lỗi. Victor nhướng mày, một thoáng tò mò thoáng qua trên khuôn mặt anh ta. Cô đã trả lời chưa? Anh hỏi. Tôi đã nói với anh ấy rằng tôi không tức giận, nhưng tôi nhấn mạnh rằng tình huống này liên quan đến tình huống nhiều hơn, chỉ là liên quan đến nhiều thứ hơn là chỉ cảm xúc của tôi. Cảm xúc của tôi. Tôi đã nói rằng lời xin lỗi của cô ấy, lời xin lỗi không quan trọng với tôi. Không quan trọng với tôi. Điều thực sự đè nặng lên trái tim tôi, trái tim là khả năng cô ấy sẽ thay đổi, là khả năng biến đổi của cô ấy. Ánh mắt của Victor khóa chặt vào tôi trong một khoảnh khắc thoáng qua, và trong sự im lặng chung đó, anh ấy gật đầu chấp thuận một cách tinh tế. Một khoảnh khắc thoáng qua, và trong sự im lặng chừng đó, anh ấy gật đầu chấp thuận một cách tinh tế. Anh ấy suy ngẫm về sự tương phản giữa bạn và cô ấy. Bất chấp sự phán xét bạn phải đối mặt, bạn ngang cao đầu cao, thể hiện sự duyên dáng và mạnh mẽ, ngay cả trong những khoảnh khắc cô đơn. Thể hiện sự duyên dáng và sức mạnh, ngay cả trong những khoảnh khắc cô đơn. Danica ngả người trên cái ghế, tâm trí của cô ấy trôi đi trong một khoảnh khắc thoáng qua. Rời xa trong khoảnh khắc thoáng qua. Tôi không bao giờ đã yêu cầu bất kỳ điều gì trong số này, cô bày tỏ. Chúng tôi đã xóa thành công thiết bị đau cuối. Nó đang hỏi bạn. Khi David Lawson, giám đốc điều hành hãng hàng không đã ở bên cạnh cô trước đó, bước trở lại phòng, phần cuối. Báo chí vẫn chưa đến, nhưng các cuộc gọi của họ đã bắt đầu được gửi đến. Có thoải mái khi sử dụng lối thoát riêng không? Nhìn Dina, người dừng lại để suy nghĩ, biểu cảm của cô thay đổi trước khi cô kiên quyết lắc đầu. Sự hiện diện, cô tuyên bố. Gật đầu nhẹ nhàng, nhận ra khoảnh khắc đó với sự thấu hiểu lặng lẽ, chân thành. Anh cắm tập hồ sơ trên tay rồi nhẹ nhàng đóng lại, một khoảnh khắc suy ngẫm thoáng qua trong ảnh. Với con gái mình, một chiến binh dũng cảm, và nở một nụ cười dịu dàng hiếm hoi, tràn đầy sự ấm áp, cho họ thấy bản chất thật sự của bạn. Cha khi cánh cửa phòng cho mở ra, sự chuyên nghiệp yên tĩnh của không gian riêng tư nhượng chỗ cho ánh đèn huỳnh quang chói chang cửa hành lang nhà ga. Một sự tương phản rõ rệt khơi dậy điều gì đó sâu thẳm bên trong cô. Hành trình đến lội ra dường như kéo dài mãi mãi, nhưng cô không còn cảm thấy mình tầm thường khi đi qua đó nữa. Với mỗi bước, cô ấy mang theo không chỉ ba lô, mà còn mang theo cả gánh nặng ký ức của mình. Ba lô của cô mà còn là gánh nặng của những ký ức, không còn là gánh nặng nữa, nó đã trở thành nguồn sức mạnh của cô, là gánh nặng nữa, nó đã trở thành nguồn sức mạnh của cô. Hai nhân viên an ninh hàng không lặng lẽ đứng cạnh họ, sự hiện diện của họ giống như một vấn đề thủ tục hơn là một lá chắn an toàn. Các sĩ quan lặng lẽ đứng bên cạnh họ, sự hiện diện của họ mang tính thủ tục hơn là lá chắn an toàn. Cảm giác cấp bách, David Lawson vội vã tiến về phía trước, điện thoại nắm chặt, trả lời tin nhắn ngắn gọn và nhẹ nhàng. Mặc dù hãng hàng không đã cố gắng xử lý tình hình một cách lặng lẽ, nhưng họ đã mất kiểm soát câu chuyện. Chia sẻ video mở trên mạng xã hội, ghi lại khoảnh khắc Karen Mitchell, hộ tổng Danica trở lại khoảng hạng nhất. Trong khi đó, tin đồn về một người lính bị kéo khỏi ghế của cô bắt đầu lan truyền trên mạng, làm dấy lên một cơn bão suy đoán. Khói từ một đám cháy đã thu hút sự chú ý của hành khách đang nán lại trong nhà ga, khơi dậy cảm giác cấp bách và lo lắng. Cuộc hành trình, trong khi những người khác nhìn chằm chằm với sự chăm chú. Người phụ nữ mặc bộ đồ vest màu xám nhẹ nhàng huých chồng mình. Ánh mắt cô tập trung sâu sắc vào Danica khi cô thì thầm điều gì đó với anh. Đứa trẻ ngước nhìn lên với đôi mắt mở to và hỏi, cô ấy có nổi tiếng không? Mẹ nhẹ nhàng trấn an anh, đôi mắt tràn đầy sự đồng cảm, không phải vì cái tên Danica, mà vì câu chuyện mà cô vừa bước vào. Danica đứng kiên quyết, cầm cô cam gang lên thách thức và lập trường không lấy chuyện. Ngang cào đầu và giữ vững lập trường. Bộ đồng phục cô mặc chứa đựng ý nghĩa sâu sắc hơn nhiều so với vai và chị. Bằng chứng cho chuyến đi của họ, Giờ đây gợi lên cảm giác không phải là xung đột, nhưng khi họ đến gần cửa ngoài của nhà ga, một nhân viên trẻ xuất hiện, rõ ràng là rất lo lắng và đang cầm chặt một chiếc máy tính bằng, mặc dù phải gánh chịu một thông điệp mà cô không thể hiểu nổi. Với giọng nhẹ nhàng, cô quay sang Victor và nói, vâng, Tổng Giám đốc điều hành đang yêu cầu anh gọi điện sớm nhất có thể.
Peter sẵn sàng họp trực tiếp trước khi trả lời báo chí vì ông cảm thấy điều quan trọng là phải giải quyết vấn đề này trong nội bộ nhóm trước. Danica, người đã nhanh chóng trả lời, tôi không quan tâm. Các nhân viên trao nhau những cái nhìn lo lắng, gật đầu đồng ý trong im lặng, chia sẻ điều đó với họ. Cái ôm tươi mát của không khí buổi chiều muộn, nơi bầu trời khoác lên mình một màu xám nhẹ nhàng, và làn gió nhẹ nhàng nhảy múa qua chiếc xe bán tải vắng vẻ làn gió vùng. Nhảy múa qua khu vực đón khách vắng vẻ. Một chiếc SUV lề đường, tiếng động cơ thì thầm một giai điệu nhẹ nhàng. Màu đen kiên nhẫn đứng bên lề đường, động cơ thì thầm một giai điệu nhẹ nhàng. Victor nhẹ nhàng mở cửa cho con gái mình. Cô bé đang nép mình vào ghế, đặt tay lên đầu gối và nhìn ra ngoài cửa sổ, trong khi cha cô bé ngồi xuống bên cạnh cô bé, cùng nhau chia sẻ khoảnh khắc yên tĩnh. Con gái ông, người đang ngồi thử mình trên ghế, đặt tay lên đầu gối và nhìn ra ngoài cửa sổ, trong khi cha cô bé ngồi xuống bên cạnh cô bé, cùng nhau chia sẻ khoảnh khắc yên tĩnh. Tuy nhiên, đối với Danica, một sự thay đổi sâu sắc đã diễn ra, và nó không chỉ giới hạn ở bản thân cô bé. Người lái xe nhẹ nhàng đóng cửa lại, và ngay lúc đó, một sự im lặng sâu thẳm bao trùm lấy họ, tạo nên khoảnh khắc nặng nề với những cảm xúc không nói nên lời. Khi thành phố trôi qua, những ngã tư sôi động tràn đầy năng lượng, những ánh đèn nhấp nháy chiếu sáng đường phố và người đi bộ di chuyển có chủ đích, cuộc sống diễn ra theo nhịp điệu quen thuộc. Profound shift had taken place, and it extended beyond just herself. Sau nhiều blocks, Victor finally broke the silence that enveloped him. Anh biết điều what lies ahead, aren't you? Danica nhẹ nhàng gật đầu, cảm xúc của cô cuồn trào bên dưới bề mặt. Gentle nod, her emotions swirling beneath the surface. Jose tried to address the situation with a statement, possibly placing her on official suspension, suggesting Chi Ching Thuk it was. Cho rằng đó là kết quả của việc đào tạo không đầy đủ hoặc hiểu lầm. A result of insufficient training or a misunderstanding. Victor got deep sense of understanding reflected in his eyes. Đau, một cảm giác thấu hiểu sâu sắc phản chiếu trong mắt anh. Họ sẽ để nó phải nhấc giận, giống như rất nhiều things in life, but this one they will endure sẽ tồn tại. Danica từ từ turned her head toward về phía anh, tim cô đập loạn xạ với những cảm xúc không nói nên lời. Him, her heart racing with unspoken feelings. Sẽ không như vậy if we choose to stand against it. Tôi đang liên hệ với Bộ Hàng không và tôi rất mong nhận được sự hỗ trợ của anh trong việc soạn thảo nó. He gazed at her for a moment, his heart heavy, before leaning back in his seat. Tonight, we are pouring our hearts into crafting a policy proposal to the Department of Aviation, and I would love your assistance in crafting it. Danica lifted her eyebrow, a flicker of curiosity dancing in her gaze. Words hold weight, he expressed. You have the power to influence how that policy touches hearts, not merely what it communicates. She nodded slowly, a gentle fire of resolve igniting within her. This transcended the experience of a single flight. It encompassed each individual, a quiet injustice that lingered unspoken whenever someone faced marginalization, neglect, or disrespect for simply being different. They were not just wrapping up the story, they stood on the brink of embarking on a new journey. Back at the airport, in a stark conference room, Karen Mitchell sat in quiet reflection, waiting for her moment to arrive. Her hands were firmly intertwined on the table, her blazer still perfectly buttoned. Even though it had lost its purpose as a shield, it had become a mask she felt trapped in, one she couldn't take off. She had already absorbed the preliminary notice from HR. Co-A Camthe gain weight of understanding. In progress, accompanied by a review that held the weight of potential termination. Heart was the undeniable truth that she had created this situation for herself, was so much more than just a mistake. Một quyết định chân thành đã đưa cô đến căn phòng trong trại này, chìm đắm trong sự tĩnh lặng và đối mặt với hậu quả. Though her name had not yet captured the spotlight, Danica's was resonating through the headlines, stirring emotions and capturing hearts. Her newsfeed,
Karen Mitchell sensed the situation drifting further away from her control. Career hung in a delicate balance, become a distant memory, and she found herself in a city far removed from any hope of healing. Woman she had once overlooked was now forging a new path, determined to create a world where no one else would endure that same silent shame again. The next time someone dared to disturb a soldier in her seat, they would surely reconsider their actions. Danica Bukvau Canho của charming fathers. Thành phố đã khuất phục trước màn đêm. Apartment. The city had already surrendered to the embrace of night. The skyline glowed softly in the distance, with twinkling lights dancing across the tall buildings, while the traffic below resonated like the heartbeat of a great, bustling entity. Yet within the apartment, a profound stillness enveloped the space, each item meticulously arranged, whispering stories of quiet moments and unspoken feelings. The atmosphere was serene, yet pulsating with a unique mix of warmth and fervor, a realm where calmness intertwined with strength. Danica slipped out of her uniform, embracing the comfort of a casual sweatshirt and jeans, before stepping into the small study where her father awaited. The gentle lighting wrapped around the room, casting a warm glow over the mostly clear table, which held a laptop, a legal pad, and a half-empty mug of black coffee, each item whispering stories of late nights and shared moments. Victor was already lost in his thoughts, fingers dancing across the keys as she entered, the sharp clicks echoing in the stillness, a poignant reminder of the moment. Lỗi nhắc nhở về khoảnh khắc đó. Anh ấy nói nhẹ nhàng, and gaze fixed on the ground. They've issued a statement. Danica vòng tay ôm lấy mình arms, một cử chỉ nói lên rất nhiều sự hỗn loạn bên trong cô. Around herself, a gesture that spoke volumes of her inner turmoil. Cho phép thôi. Có vẻ như chúng tôi cảm thấy đau buồn vì sự cố này incident. Chúng tôi không thể tolerate discrimination in any form. Chúng tôi đang deeply engaged tham gia in a comprehensive investigation, sâu sắc vào một cuộc điều tra toàn diện. Anh ấy nhẹ nhàng turned the screen toward her, expressing that by they are aware of a situation involving về một tình huống liên quan đến một trong những thành viên phi hành đoàn của họ và một hành khách đã phục vụ one their crew members and a passenger who has honorably served as a decorated US service member. Một cách vinh dự với tư cách là một quân nhân Hoa Kỳ được tặng thưởng. Chúng tôi hiểu mức gravity of this situation tình huống and have và đã quyết định cho thành viên phi hành đoàn nghỉ phép tạm thời trong khi chúng tôi tiến hành một cuộc điều tra nội bộ kỹ lưỡng. Decided to place the crew member on temporary leave as we conduct a thorough internal investigation. Chúng tôi hết deeply devoted to ensuring that bảo rằng mọi hành khách đều được đối xử với sự tôn trọng và phẩm giá cao nhất, một lời hứa mà chúng tôi luôn ghi nhớ trong lòng. Every passenger is treated with the utmost dignity and respect, a promise that we hold close to our hearts. Danica bat cười soft laugh, yet it carried a weight of sorrow. That Dao Long, khi they still refused to acknowledge my name or ten hers. Hoặc tên của cô ấy, họ chỉ thinking of their own riêng interests. Victor bày tỏ với một trái tim nặng trĩu. Victor expressed with a heavy heart. Họ bám vào he hoped that uncertain những từ ngữ words sẽ mang lại cho họ những khoảnh khắc tĩnh lặng và suy ngẫm. We'll provide them with moments of stillness and reflection. Cô ấy tiến lại gần hơn, thu hẹp khoảng distance between them. Họ. Và anh sẽ không let that happen, he nodded, his gaze shifting to the legal pad beside him. Jay bên cạnh. Tôi đã chia sẻ cậu structure I've envisioned. Đúng, tất cả that's left is to fill in the details. Những gì còn lại là điền vào các chi tiết. Anh muốn tôi thể hiện điều gì? Đó không phải là điều tôi mong muốn, Victor đáp lại. Điều gì thực sự khao khát được thể hiện? Cô nhìn chằm chằm vào trang giấy, những dòng chữ trống rỗng vang vọng sức nặng của những suy nghĩ chưa nói ra, khao khát phương hướng và ý nghĩa. Vào khoảnh khắc đó, cô cảm thấy thôi thúc muốn trút hết tâm tư của mình vào trang giấy. Dina reached for the pen with a gentle, deliberate motion. Is it that you wish for me to express? Not what I desire, Victor responded. Be expressed. Page. The empty lines echoing with the weight of unspoken thoughts, yearning for direction and meaning. Moment. She felt the urge to pour her heart onto the page. Compulsory implementation of policies to combat discriminatory treatment of passengers.
It is essential that no airline employee takes actions to remove, relocate, question, or physically direct any passenger with a valid ticket based solely on their appearance, attire, or assumptions about their status. Every individual deserves to be treated with respect and dignity, ensuring a fair and compassionate experience for all travelers. Every removal requires a heartfelt commitment to ensuring the passenger's identity and ticket status are thoroughly verified through digital means, meticulously recorded in internal flight logs, and confirmed by a second crew member for added assurance. Any violation of this procedure, whether intentional or unintentional, will result in an immediate assessment by an independent ethics board. Moreover, it is essential to introduce further protections for our brave military personnel, those who bear visible disabilities, and individuals journeying alone in premium class seating. Victor watched her as she wrote, his heart swelling with pride, not just for her strength, but vì sức mạnh, the depth of her thoughtfulness.
Sự chủ đáo, cô trút hết tâm tư của mình hard lên trang giấy, được thúc đẩy bởi một cảm giác sáng suốt và chủ đích sâu sắc.
Onto the page, driven by a deep sense of clarity and intention. Với một profound sense cảm giác chủ đích of, Danica dừng lại một lúc và nhìn anh thật sâu. Intention. Danica took a moment to pause and looked deeply at him. Anh có nghĩ họ thực sự để ý không? Think they'll truly notice? Anh nghiêng người về phía voice softening as he responded.
Trước, giọng nói dịu lại khi anh trả lời. Họ sẽ listen, lang for the eyes of đất nước đang dõi theo chúng ta. Và lần này, câu chuyện không do hãng hàng không kiểm soát. The nation are upon us, and this time, the story is not controlled by the airline. Nó được shared by the person it mà nó chậm sâu vào, touched deeply.
Cô gật đầu, trái tim cô hot tràn ngập khi cô tiếp tục viết. Từng từ ngữ tuôn chảy như một dòng sông trên các trang giấy, tràn ra chiếc bàn phía sau cô trong một mớ cảm xúc tuyệt đẹp.
Swelling as she resumed her writing, each word flowing like a river onto the pages, spilling over onto the table behind her in a beautiful mess of emotions.
Ở phía background, the soft murmur thì thầm off của một bản tin phát ra từ chiếc TV trong phòng khách, tiết lộ rằng hành khách đã được xác định là trung sĩ Danica Thompson. Cô con gái yêu dấu của Cure News report floated from the living room television, revealing that passenger had been identified as Sergeant Danica Thompson, beloved daughter of former Commander Victor.
Thompson, who serves as a senior advisor on aviation affairs for the Department of Defense, was captured in poignant video footage by fellow passengers, showing the moment a flight attendant asked the uniformed soldier to move to the economy section without verifying her identity. An increasing wave of veterans and active service members are expressing their deep frustrations online. Victor gently lowered the volume of the television.
Danica found herself unable to keep watching, her heart heavy with the knowledge of what was already happening. She had evolved from just a name on a boarding pass into something profoundly meaningful, a poignant reminder of the burdens that so many had been forced to carry in silence. Her phone vibrated again, sending a ripple of anticipation through her heart. This time it came from a place deep within, not from her father, the airline, or the media. It was a message from Sarah Brooks, a dear friend from her unit who remains stationed far away across the ocean. I caught a glimpse of the news. You remained steadfast, just as you always do. Những thành tựu của bạn achievements khiến chúng tôi tự hào. Fill us with pride. Một new thông báo notification đã đến, khuấy động sự pha trộn giữa mong đợi và lo lắng. Arrived, stirring a mix of anticipation and unease. Cuối cùng, ai đó đã found the courage to stand up. Denison nhìn chăm chăm vào các messages, a wave of feelings washing over her, settling deep within her chest. Không entirely pride, not solely relief, but a deep, resonant camjack feeling of alignment, về sự liên kết, về việc chính xác là nơi cô được định sẵn, không chỉ ở chỗ ngồi của mình, mà là trong tiếng gọi thực sự của mình. Of being precisely where she was destined to be, not just in her seat, but in her true calling. After the confrontation, she set the phone aside and looked deeply into her father's eyes. I want to speak, she declared to the press, her voice trembling with urgency. Victor lingered on her expression, searching for the unspoken feelings hidden within. Do you truly feel confident about this? He inquired. Yes, she affirmed, not to bring shame upon anyone, but to gently remind others that silence provides no shield, and she resolutely chose to break the quiet.
Victor reclined in his chair, a gentle nod of understanding gracing his demeanor. Then we will make certain your voice resonates with them. In the quiet of that room, distant from the noise of the runway, the press releases, and the public apologies, a new voice started to rise, not only for her, but for all those who had faced similar battles. At 6 a.m., the dawn of a new day unfolded not in silence, but in a surge of energy as Danica's name ignited conversations across countless social media platforms. Nên thang truyền thông xã hội. Các video được ghi lại trên máy plane have touched the hearts of over 3 million viewers, while the heartfelt apology email from Karen Xin lỗi Mitchell to Karen Mitchell đang được xem xét và thảo luận cẩn thận trong nhiều luồng bình luận khác nhau, is being carefully examined and discussed in various comment threads. Từ những early hours giờ off của các chương trình trò chuyện buổi sáng đến những cuộc thảo luận chân thành trên các diễn đàn dành cho cựu chiến binh và những suy ngẫm sâu sắc trong các podcast tin tức, một câu hỏi ám ảnh vang lên. Làm thế nào một sự cố bi thảm như vậy vẫn có thể xảy ra? Morning talk shows to the heartfelt discussions in veteran forums and the poignant reflections in news podcasts, a haunting question reverberated.
How could such a tragic incident still unfold? Bên trong căn hộ của Marcus Hayes, không air was thick with a palpable sense of cảm giác khao khát longing. Khi Danica ngồi khoanh chân trên ghế couch, wrapped in her min sweatshirt, chiếc áo ni, chiếc TV nhấp nháy nhẹ nhàng ở phía sau. Cô cầm một cốc trà ấm, không động đến, như thể đang lạc vào thế giới suy nghĩ của riêng mình. The television flickered softly in the background.
She held a mug of lukewarm tea, untouched, as if lost in a world of her own thoughts.
The news anchor's voice intertwined with the soft, comforting hum of the apartment's heating system, creating an atmosphere that felt both familiar and soothing. Sergeant Amara Johnson, who faced the distressing experience of being removed from her first-class seat by a flight attendant despite holding a valid ticket, is preparing to speak to the public for the first time this afternoon.
The airline, amid ongoing criticism, has issued a second statement that is somewhat more candid, recognizing its failures in cabin protocol and promising to undertake a comprehensive review. In the midst of ongoing challenges, the call for clearer passenger rights is resonating deeply throughout the nation. Danica silenced the TV, enveloped in her thoughts. She was completely immersed in the moment, needing no additional words to validate her experience. Victor entered the room, his crisp button-down shirt a testament to his careful preparation, while his eyes remained glued to the screen of his phone, lost in thought. Chúng tôi rất thrilled to share that 7 prominent outlets hang thông tấn have reached đã liên hệ để phỏng vấn, cùng với 2 tạp chí quốc gia. Một đoàn làm phim tài liệu háo hức ghi lại câu chuyện của bạn và một nữ nghị sĩ đang bày tỏ mong muốn chân thành được gặp bạn trực tiếp.
Out for interviews, along with 2 national magazines. A documentary crew is eager to capture your story, and a congresswoman expressing a heartfelt desire to meet with you personally. Danica Nguyen Mai, một flicker of curiosity crossing her face. Cô ấy thực sự mong muốn điều gì is it that she truly desires? Victor ngồi vào chiếc chair opposite her, a moment charged with unspoken feelings. Cô ấy khao khát hiểu understand quan điểm của bạn trước khi your viewpoint before.
He they poured their hearts into drafting a passenger protection bill, bảo vệ it. Có cảm giác như thể dự luật sẽ được thông qua vội vàng, felt as though would be rushed through, particularly in light of the urgency surrounding the current situation. Đặc biệt là khi xét đến tính cấp bách của tình hình hiện tại. Danica thở dài thườn heavy sigh, thượt, chìm trong suy nghĩ về việc một chuyến bay duy nhất, một sự cố đơn độc, đã khiến tình hình trở nên quá sức này.
Lost in thought about how a single flight, a solitary incident, had spiraled into this overwhelming situation. Victor locked eyes with her, conveying the weight of his words, making it clear that this was about more than just a single flight. Every moment like this had unfolded before, yet it had been brushed aside, forgotten in the shadows of time. He noted that you are undeniably the one who decided to break the silence. She gently set her mug aside, her voice soft yet firm. I didn't refuse. I simply couldn't let them stifle it.
He nodded, a silent recognition of the deep feelings shared. In that moment, a sudden double tap resonated through the air, piercing the stillness at the door. Danica rose and approached it, her heart racing as she opened the door to reveal a tall woman dressed in a grey blazer, standing there with an air of quiet confidence. With a gentle nod, Ms. Thompson Danica stood there, cradling a manila envelope in her hands.
I stand before you as a representative of the airline, Hàng không. Một heartfelt lá thư letter đã được soạn thảo, một lời xin lỗi chính thức có chữ ký của CEO. Ban has been crafted, an official written apology bearing the signature of the CEO. Có quyền to freedom to choose whether to accept chấp nhận hay phản hồi. It or respond. Tôi was Chai simply asked Yuko to bring it straight to you. Mang thang đến cho bạn. Danica im lặng envelope in silence, her emotions swirling within her. Nhận phong bì, cảm xúc của cô ấy cuồn trào trong cô ấy. Người phụ nữ gật đầu nhẹ, lòng nặng chịu khi cô ấy quay đi. Woman offered a brief nod, her heart heavy as she turned to walk away. With a heavy heart, Danica closed the door behind her, slowly made her way back to the couch, and gently opened it, as if seeking comfort in its familiar embrace. Within lay a solitary sheet, meticulously typed with care.
To Sergeant Amara Johnson, we offer our heartfelt apologies for the events that transpired. Regarding Flight 227, the experience you had deeply concerns us and does not reflect the values or standards we hold dear as an airline. We deeply acknowledge the disappointment caused by the failure to properly verify your boarding status and the distressing behavior of our crew member. We are taking heartfelt steps right away to ensure that no other passenger has to experience this in the future. We truly regret what happened, and you absolutely deserve more than this. Warmest regards, Robert Klein, CEO. Danica stared at the letter, her heart heavy with unspoken feelings. It was refined, expertly crafted, and carried a touch of humanity, but it seemed as though the moment had passed. She placed it gently on the coffee table and sank back into her seat, a whirlwind of feelings swirling within her. She watched him intently. It appears that you might be feeling a sense of discontent.
Tôi not upset, she replied. Tuy nhiên, họ không bao giờ shared the reasons behind what occurred. Họ đã không nhận recognize it, and that's the real problem. Cho đến khi họ đối mặt với vấn đề real issue, it remains nothing more than a superficial fix. Ban sửa chữa hỏi Victor gật đầu, về mặt anh expression nặng chịu những suy nghĩ chưa nói ra. Heavy with unspoken thoughts. Anh có muốn khám phá nó không? Uncover it? Cô khoa mặt với anh. Chắc chắn rồi, và I feel a strong urge to make sự thôi thúc it để thực hiện điều đó ngay hôm nay. Happen today. Anh nghiêng người về phía trước, tiến lại gần hơn, như if the world around them faded away. Hãy dành một moment to craft your statement with tuyên bố care một cách cẩn thận. Trong next 3 hours, họ đã dồn hết tâm huyết vào việc trau chuốt từng từ một cách cẩn thận. They poured their hearts into refining each word with care. Mỗi sentence held profound significance.
Tránh những cách diễn đạt thông thường expressions và ngôn ngữ dễ đoán. And predictable language. Danica cố gắng thể hiện bản thân mà không có bất kỳ dấu hiệu oán giận hay mong muốn trả thù nào. Express herself without any trace of resentment or desire for retribution. Cô ấy muốn thể hiện con người thật của mình, khẳng định sức mạnh của mình và thể hiện khả năng phục hồi. Express her true self, assert her power, and embody resilience. The soldier who drew everyone in with a quiet strength that spoke volumes. By noon, they arrived at the press conference hall, a place filled with the stories and sacrifices of a local veterans group. It was not a lavish event. A handful of cameras, a podium standing tall, and rows of folding chairs filled with journalists, bloggers, and a few dedicated active duty officers gathered to show their unwavering support for her. Danica lingered in the shadows, her heart racing as Victor adjusted the microphone with meticulous care. Clad in a modest dark blazer and jeans, she bore no insignia or accolades. They felt superfluous. A man holding a clipboard gestured for her to move forward. Whenever you feel prepared, he suggested gently. She took a deep breath and stepped out. The room embraced a profound stillness. The cameras shifted their gaze, and the light seemed to linger, suspended in a moment of anticipation. Danica approached this podium, inhaled deeply, and started to speak.
Ý định của tôi intention không phải là hạ bệ bất kỳ ai, is not to bring anyone down. Tôi không bao giờ có ý định to disrupt someone's career or sự nghiệp damage hoặc làm tổn hại đến danh tiếng của một công ty. The reputation of a company. Tôi đến đây với calm sense of not fitting in, and deep down, I understood I wasn't alone in that feeling. I never wanted to be treated differently or to be the center of attention.
I held a legitimate ticket and donned a uniform that I worked hard to achieve. That should have been enough, yet it fell short. I was asked to leave due to how I look. What someone believed goes beyond just a simple misinterpretation. It's a profound assessment, and a treacherous one indeed. This happens far too often, affecting not just soldiers, but also those who journey through life while being black, brown, disabled, poor, quiet, or proud. I am raising my voice now, not just for myself, but for those who have been silenced, for those who need to be heard. I don't want an apology. I have already received one, and it means so much to me. I seek a deep sense of responsibility concerning policy and a heartfelt promise that when a flight attendant next meets someone who doesn't fit their idea of first class, they will reflect on their own biases. Reeing. Trước khi họ nhìn at the boarding pass, I feel a sense of belonging. Tất cả chúng ta đều chia sẻ trải nghiệm này, và không có chỗ ngồi được chỉ định nào có thể experience, and no assigned seat can change that truth. Thay đổi sự thật đó. Khi cô ấy nói xong speaking, an enveloping sự im lặng silence trùm khắp căn phòng, không phải vì do dự về cách trả lời, mà là tự nhận thức sâu sắc rằng họ vừa trải qua một điều gì đó thực sự, một điều gì đó vô cùng quan trọng. Settled over the room, not from hesitation about how to reply, but from the profound realization that they had just experienced something real, something deeply significant. Victor buộc tôi and gently placed a hand on her shoulder, lên vai cô, không phải để tiễn cô ra khỏi sân khấu, mà để mang đến cho cô sự thoải mái khi có anh ở bên. Not to usher off the stage, but to offer the comfort of his presence. As the applause began to rise, first gently, and then with increasing fervor, Danica held her ground, standing tall and resolute for the first time since. Flight 227 was a moment that changed everything for her. At last, she sensed that her existence was truly recognized. The days that followed passed in a blur, faster than Danica ever expected. The clip of her speech touched hearts and spread like wildfire, capturing millions of views by evening. It was embraced by military veterans, civil rights organizations, airline workers, news outlets, and even beloved celebrities. No fue la fama lo que surgió, sino un profundo diálogo. Her inbox overflowed with messages, a torrent of hundreds from strangers she had never met. Some were from service members who had faced similar trials, while others came from parents, students, teachers, and passengers, each carrying their own stories and emotions. Had never worn a uniform, yet still felt a profound sense of insignificance at 30,000 feet. Odo cao 30,000 feet. Một message struck a profound den caught tim tôi, within me. Nó đến từ a retired nurse, a remarkable woman named người phụ nữ Margaret, tên là Margaret Ellis. Ellis. Tiếp viên hàng không đã yêu cầu xem CMND của bà, và ngay lúc đó, bà cảm thấy hoàn toàn bị cô lập, như thể bà là người duy nhất bị giám sát. Ở tuổi 74, bà thấy khó có thể nói lên suy nghĩ của mình, nhưng khi nhìn thấy bạn, bà cảm thấy được kết nối và thấu hiểu. She shared a moment when she found herself in first class, a ticket lovingly gifted by her son. Flight attendant asked to see her ID, and in that moment she felt completely isolated, as if she were the only one under scrutiny. Years old, she found it hard to voice her thoughts, yet seeing you brought her a sense of connection and understanding. I'm truly grateful. Danica stared at the screen, her heart racing, as she took a moment to gather her thoughts before replying. Your existence has always been enough, no explanations required. That seat belonged to you, and it was taken away unjustly. It truly pains me that no one... I previously shared that, in the background, a powerful wave of momentum was building swiftly. Victor poured his heart into crafting a formal policy proposal for the Department of Transportation. With the backing of passionate advocacy groups and the spotlight of national media, his vision was finally being taken seriously, igniting hope for meaningful change. The proposal lacked grandeur. While it may not promise instant change, it offered a thorough and practical approach, and most importantly, it was co-authored by Danica herself. It encompassed essential training to raise awareness of biases for all airline personnel, featuring practical scenario testing and the involvement of independent oversight committees. GI quit mọi concerns of passengers regarding seat việc thao dụ hoặc phân công lại removal với sự đồng cảm, thiết lập các thủ tục xác minh nhanh chóng cho các vấn đề về vé, đồng thời đảm bảo rằng mỗi tương tác đều được ghi chép cẩn thận và được lưu giữ với mức độ bảo mật cao nhất. Or reassignment with empathy, establishing prompt verification procedures for ticket issues, all the while ensuring that every interaction is carefully documented and preserved with utmost security.
Điều này bao gồm việc nêu bật các nhóm được bảo vệ classes để đảm bảo rằng những cá nhân có hoàn cảnh dễ bị tổn thương hoặc bị thiệt thòi trong lịch sử không phải chịu sự giám sát quá mức một cách bất công, to ensure that individuals from vulnerable or historically marginalized backgrounds were not unfairly subjected to excessive scrutiny without valid reasons. Mà không có lý do chính đáng.
Raw was clear, steadfast, and unyielding, and for the first time, Danica felt that her voice was not just being heard, tiếng nói, but không chỉ được lắng nghe mà còn tạo ra sự khác biệt, was also making a difference. Tuy nhiên, cô were those who found they themselves chưa sẵn sàng để tiến về phía trước, unready to move forward. One evening, as she stepped into a serene bookstore cafe for a podcast interview dedicated to veterans, Danica's gaze fell upon a familiar silhouette, quietly seated at a distant table, hidden away in a corner where few would take notice of her. It was Karen Mitchell, a name that resonates deeply within me. Her hair flowed more gently, her posture softened, yet it was unmistakably her, the once vibrant flight attendant who had sparked it all. She wasn't in uniform and looked weary, not only in her body, but also in her spirit. As her eyes lifted and connected with Danica's, a wave of resolve washed over her features. Danica held back, her heart heavy with unspoken words. Their story had already begun to reveal itself, yet just before she stepped out of the cafe, That evening, the manager presented Danica with a folded note, the writing on the front shaky and uncertain. With a trembling heart, Danica opened it slowly. Tôi đã mất việc job, and I feel like tôi brought this upon myself. Dear, Toy wanted to share that I've started volunteering at a community centre near my apartment, where trung tâm I'm working gan căn hộ của mình, nơi tôi làm việc với những đứa trẻ chưa từng trải nghiệm niềm vui của việc bay trước đây. With kids who have never experienced the joy of flying before. Mot of them expressed a deep desire to become muona pilot, trâu thành phi công, được truyền cảm hứng từ bạn, inspired by you. Tôi sẽ always carry the weight of what gánh nặng ai những gì tôi đã làm với bạn, nhưng tôi thề rằng nó sẽ không định hình toàn bộ con người tôi mãi mãi. Did to you, but I vow that it will not shape my entire being for all time. Tôi vẫn tiếp tục cảm thấy hối tiếc, feel sâu sắc, deep regret, mãi mãi. Mr. Starr, Danica carefully folded the note once more, her heart heavy with unspoken words. She remained expressionless, caught in a moment of stillness.
With a gentle motion, she tucked it away in her bag. There would be no friendship, no need for closure discussions or in-person apologies, yet that small piece of paper held the weight of transformation, marking the beginning of a journey for both sides. In the weeks that followed, airlines across the nation began to transform their training protocols, with many seeking Danica's guidance and support. She turned down many offers, feeling no desire to be a mere symbol or a commercial entity.
She longed for the story to achieve its meaning and then gently slip into the background.
One morning, she received a call from her former unit, sharing the heartfelt news that they were sending her a framed. The recognition was not for her valor in combat, but for her extraordinary courage in serving her community. She let out a soft laugh at the words, "You stood up on a plane, Dan," as her commanding officer said them. "Si quan chi hui đã nói."
Tuy nhiên, weight of those words resonated within her soul. Sức nặng của những lời đó vẫn vang vọng trong tâm hồn cô. Cô đón nhận vinh dự này với sức mạnh thanh thản, tiến về phía trước, không phải từ nơi sợ hãi về những gì người khác có thể nghĩ, mà bởi vì cô Horner quyết tâm không để một bước đi sai lầm nào định nghĩa hành trình của mình.
Trong hành trình tiếp theo, cô chọn mặc quần jean và áo with a serene strength, soaring onward, not from a place of fear about what others might think, but because she was determined not to let a single misstep define her journey. Phone. Next journey, she chose to wear jeans Phúc và Attendant Co. đã từng định nghĩa cô. Với tri-team tràn đầy a t-shirt, stepping away from the uniform and the spotlight that once defined her. Ước mơ heart full of chick dreams lô đeo trên vai, cô bước về phía cổng, nơi người đại diện chào đón cô bằng một nụ cười ấm áp. And a backpack slung over her shoulder, she stepped toward the gate, where the agent welcomed her with a warm smile. Greeted Miss Thompson as she settled into seat 2A, hoping she finds joy in her journey. There was an absence of lingering gazes, no questions asked, no assessments made. As she nestled into her seat, free from interruptions, she looked out the window, took a deep breath, and allowed a soft smile to grace her lips. Not from a place of lack, but from the deep realization that she would forever hold her worth without needing to prove it. Spring unfolded gently, ushering in the delicate beauty of blossoming dogwoods and the promise of clearer skies. Months had drifted by since the incident on Flight 227, but its weight and meaning had only grown deeper with each passing day. At this point, the story of Sergeant Danica Thompson had evolved beyond just a fleeting viral headline. She had transformed into a crucial source of inspiration. Her story resonated in policy meetings, shone brightly in diversity training seminars, and sparked heartfelt discussions in classrooms chunthang across the nation.
Sinh viên đại học Students đã dồn hết tâm huyết vào các bài luận về tác động sâu sắc của cuộc biểu tình im lặng, trong khi phi hành đoàn hãng hàng không đón nhận câu chuyện của cô, đan xen nó vào các mô đun nghiên cứu tình huống khám phá các chủ đề sâu sắc về đạo đức và trách nhiệm giải trình.
Quan Trung poured their hearts into essays about the profound impact of silent protest, while airline crews embraced her narrative, weaving it into case study modules that explored the deep themes of ethics and accountability. Not importantly, everyday passengers, especially those from marginalized backgrounds, began to feel empowered, can express their concerns, no longer burdened by the fear of being ignored. Bởi nỗi sợ bị không hề yêu cầu not asked bất kỳ điều gì trong số đó, nhưng cô đã vượt qua tất cả với sự điềm tĩnh đáng kinh ngạc. For any of it, yet she navigated through it all with remarkable poise. Những ngày của cô Days trôi qua với nhịp điệu nhẹ nhàng hơn, không còn tiếng ồn ào không ngừng của máy ảnh, micro và những cuộc gọi khẩn cấp. Embraced a gentler rhythm, free from the relentless buzz of flashing cameras, microphones, and urgent calls. She found herself slipping back into the familiar rhythm of her days, dedicating her time as a part-time civilian contractor focused on military readiness systems, sharing knowledge with young minds at a local youth center on weekends, and embracing the solace of long, solitary hikes through state parks, where her only companions were her thoughts and the gentle whisper of leaves beneath her boots. The echoes of her story continued to resonate, surfacing in tender reminders, like a woman at the grocery store who extended her hand in connection. With a tender touch to her elbow, she whispered, "You have inspired me to discover my voice in the workplace." A teenage boy stood at the bus stop, his eyes lighting up as he recognized her. With a hint of curiosity and concern, he asked, "Were you on that flight?" An elderly man sitting in the DMV quietly acknowledged the situation with a nod and softly said, "Thank you for standing your ground." It was never about the spotlight. It was an experience that ran deeper, a reverence rooted in true sincerity. One afternoon, Danica found herself holding an invitation to speak at the National Aviation Policy Forum in Washington, D.C. The event was a grand affair filled with executives, regulators, and politicians, each one adorned in their finest tailored attire, creating an atmosphere of anticipation and significance. As Danica stepped back onto the stage, the air shifted dramatically. Gone were the polished suits and rehearsed grins. Instead, she embraced a more authentic look with her jeans, boots, and a simple blouse, instantly transforming the mood. She spoke from the heart, without the crutch of notes. She was strong enough on her own.
Standing at the podium, she radiated a serene strength, sharing her story not as someone who had been wronged or as a figure of fame, but as a person who had once faced the gentle yet piercing words that implied she was an outsider. Hung loi nhẹ nhàng am chỉ cô ấy là người ngoài cuộc. Chiếc seat I occupied that day ngày held có ý nghĩa vượt xa những con số đơn thuần, a significance beyond mere numbers.
Nó tượng trưng cho một vị trí deeply được đấu tranh fought for. Position. Tôi không seek it nó out or đặt mình lên trên nó, place myself above it. It was truly meant for me. Yet someone gazed upon me and recognized a flaw, and that captures the heart of what we are confronting. Not just policy, but the way we are seen. We can prepare countless employees and set many rules, but all of it loses significance if the notion remains that some travelers come with burdens, while others are granted ease without question. This matter goes beyond just one airline or even the whole industry. It captures the profound difference between authority and self-respect. Power may be bestowed, yet the recognition of dignity is essential, for it stands as a basic right, not merely a privilege.
When she concluded her speech, the applause resonated deeply, echoing with heartfelt appreciation. It was an extended moment filled with deep respect and a profound sense of connection. That evening, after the forum, Denisa wandered through the streets of DC, feeling the weight of the day's discussions lingering in her heart. Một mình. Không air was mi sang khoai refreshingly và thành phố tràn đầy năng lượng sống động. Cool, and the city pulsed with vibrant energy.
Tiếng còi xe horns vang vọng, giọng nói đàn sen và tiếng cười thỉnh thoảng echo, voices intertwine, and the occasional laughter dances from a restaurant patio. Nay mua từ sân hiên nhà hàng. Kobe drawn to the National Mall, bị mê hoặc bởi tương đài lấp lánh trong ánh sáng vàng dịu nhẹ. Captivated by the monument that shimmered in a gentle golden light.
Khi ngồi xuống băng ghế đối diện với đài tưởng niệm Lincoln, mặt cô nán lại trên hình tượng uy nghiêm đang canh gác thành phố, gồi lên cảm giác suy ngẫm và kết nối sâu sắc.
Bench facing the Lincoln Memorial, her eyes lingered on the majestic figure that stood vigil over the city, evoking a deep sense of reflection and connection. Lần đầu first time in 6 weeks, tuần, cô cho phép mình quay lại khoảnh khắc chính xác đó trên máy bay khi cô Burke đưa tay ra.
She allowed herself to revisit that exact moment on the plane when Ms. Burke reached out. Her arm beckoned her to shift, to embrace the sensation of being unmoored. The pain remained, but it had lost its power over her. She had completely changed it. In that poignant moment, with one hand resting gently on her shoulder, an assumption disguised as authority unfolded into an unexpected consequence. Not through yelling or fighting, but by choosing to rise even while seated, she resolutely refused to allow silence to dominate. Across the mall, a soft breeze whispered. Flags swayed gracefully, and lights twinkled like stars upon the reflecting pool. Denisa sat quietly, her hands gently placed in her lap, her face a canvas of calmness. Yet there were no more apologies to seek, no further declarations to anticipate, no additional platforms to occupy, only the essence of life itself. In that existence, she had grasped something that no uniform or medal could grant her, the profound recognition of her worth and the strength to stay rooted when the world beckoned her to ascend elsewhere. With a gentle yet steadfast determination, she rewrote the story, not just for herself, but for every soul who had ever felt the sting of exclusion, the haunting whisper that said, "You are not welcome here. Not now, not ever again." At 110. 4. If this video touched your heart, please show your support with a thumbs up, share your thoughts in the comments, and remember to subscribe to the channel for more uplifting stories like this. We truly appreciate you taking the time to watch. Danica Thompson's journey on Flight 227 reveals the profound strength found in maintaining dignity and holding ourselves accountable, even amidst the harshest injustices. Her serene reaction to discrimination, choosing not to be muted while preserving her dignity, underscores the significance of advocating for one's rights with grace rather than fury. This narrative highlights how judgments rooted in looks can result in deep missteps, stressing the importance of compassion and dignity for everyone. In today's America, Where the richness of diversity shines brightly, Danika's story touches the heart profoundly.
It serves as a poignant reminder to confront our biases in the moments we share with others, be it in the workplace, in educational settings, or within our communities. Her passionate commitment to advocating for policy changes, such as mandatory anti-bias training, highlights the profound impact that individual actions can have in igniting meaningful systemic reform. This moment is significant as workplaces and institutions work tirelessly to foster inclusive environments, with a remarkable 68% of Americans standing behind diversity initiatives, according to Pew Research 2023. To embrace this, we can cultivate a deep sense of self-awareness, challenge our immediate reactions, and find the courage to voice our concerns when we see injustice unfold. Championing policies that foster accountability, such as open and transparent complaint systems, resonates deeply with our collective commitment to fairness and justice. Tinh thần kiên định của Danica thúc đẩy chúng ta trân trọng phẩm giá của mình, bảo vệ lẫn nhau và xây dựng một môi trường nơi mỗi cá nhân đều cảm thấy được coi trọng, bất kể vị trí hay địa vị của họ.
Embrace our dignity, stand up for one another, and nurture an environment where every individual feels valued, no matter their place or standing.